Hello, it's me, Colton, with some post-show edits as I'm putting together today's episode. Today's May 6, 2022, which marks the 20-year anniversary of Fall Out Boy's Take This to Your Grave, something we actually neglected to mention in today's episode, even though we totally made that connection 100%. The AP actually just put out an article yesterday about the anniversary album, and I think it captured something that I kind of had a hard time putting into words when this was recorded. And that's explaining to younger generations the massive impact that Fall Out Boy has had on the pop punk culture. It can be kind of a challenge. When the band was at the peak of their success, they were constantly pursued by paparazzi, recording with Jay-Z for some of their songs, filming music videos with Kim Kardashian. You know, they didn't just sneakily introduce the pop punk and emo scene into the mainstream, they went full out for it. And as fans of Fall Out Boy continue to celebrate the 20th anniversary of that debut album, Take This to Your Grave, it's impossible not to feel a wave of nostalgia when listening to some of the iconic tracks that made the band what it is today. One such track that stands out for myself personally is Saturday, a high-energy anthem that captured the spirit of pop punk and the emo scene at the time. Listening to Saturday now, 2 decades later, it's hard not to feel transported back in time. The lyrics, with their honest portrayal of teenage angst, still resonate with some of us who have grown up alongside the band. Even just the start of it, I'm good to go and I'm going nowhere fast, capture that feeling of being lost and uncertain, which I'm sure is a sentiment that many of us, even as adults, can relate to. I think that Saturday is the perfect portrayal of Fall Out Boy's sound of the time. The driving guitars, Patrick Stump's distinctive vocals, they all come together to create that song that is both catchy and meaningful. So it's no wonder Saturday has become such a beloved track for so many fans over the years. In many ways, Saturday is that time capsule that brings us back to a specific moment in pop culture history. It's a reminder of a time when pop punk and the emo scene was exploding, and Fall Out Boy was at the forefront of that movement. And as we continue to revisit the history of the band that helped shape our youth, I think Take This to Your Grave will always hold a special place in our hearts. So with that being said, let's jump into the episode. I hate looking at knees.
Looking at just a couple of pasty knees.
Have you seen the episode of Always Sunny where Mac and Dennis are like making a dating profile for Charlie?
Oh, I've seen clips of it.
Yeah. It's like, what are some of your interests? Magnets. and then they ask, okay, well, we're just gonna put snowboarding, but they're like, what are some of your dislikes? And he's like, people's knees. It's like, honestly, I get that. I don't like looking at knees. It's just weird.
Speaking of like shows that, I mean, like late to the party on or whatever, because I haven't even finished watching It's Always Sunny, but we started watching Ted Lasso.
Oh, fantastic!
So show. Good, man. I mean, we're like halfway through the first season. Jen and I.
It's one of my favorite shows. It's so good.
Yeah, it's incredible so far, man.
It's such feel good.
Yeah,
happy. Like real issues,
but like not like happy in like a corny way, like happy in like a legitimate. At the end of the episode, like I feel great right now.
It's like really good writing. Yeah. You feel happy. Yeah, no, the whole thing is so well done.
Yeah, big fan of Ted Lasso, and people have been telling me for years now, like not just like, oh yeah, like you're gonna love that show. Like I've had people say like, you specifically will love this show, and I've always been like, whatever. Yeah. I love this show.
Yeah,
everybody was right about it.
It's good. It's good. All right, welcome back.
Yeah, we're back live in person.
I'm here.
Yeah,
I appreciate you taking over last episode and having Joe. Which when I watched it and listened to it, I was so sad that you to not be a part of that conversation.
You and Joe would get along so well, I think.
Oh man, he was just such a gem and had such good stories to share. And like if one of us dies, he absolutely is the contender for
replacement
co-runner. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, you heard it here first. If I don't show up anymore, it's because I died, and you will start seeing more of Joe on the podcast.
Likewise, just in case, right? Just anything can happen. But no, he had some really good insights, some good points into it, and it's nice to get somebody who's actually in the mix in the scene into into the road there. So again, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Chief State, for having that and being a part of the conversation. So it was fantastic.
we will, I think, in the future. I've been talking with Joe about this a little bit offline. Like try to get some of the other guys from Chief State on. I would love to get Fraser on, their lead singer, and I was thinking as well, like that'd be a cool way for us as a show to sort of be able to get back to our roots a little bit in terms of having a live performance incorporated in the show somehow, like we did like on the OG episode when you were on and stuff.
Yeah,
and Dom and Chris were there.
I think it's something we could absolutely set up. I think it'd be cool.
Totally. And also to everybody who thinks that, like, that's what the biggest feedback that I got from Jen after that episode came out was she was like, man, Joe is so high energy, like
absolutely
so excitable, like that kind of thing. If you think that guy's got energy on a podcast, go see a Chief State show, because that guy is just like, he said it on there, like he can jam and bounce around in like a 1x1 little cube kind of thing, man. This guy on stage is the whole band is just such an entertaining band to see live. So go see them if you get an opportunity. And I don't have the date in front of me, but he did preview one of their shows that's coming up.
Yes,
with a handful of really good sounding bands in the early parts of summer here. So get your tickets,
which we definitely need to go to. And I mean, even you brought up some things from the concert that we went to, you know, for when they opened up for
the Wonder Years.
And you know, somebody saying we're from Vancouver, and I was like, you're not. I forgot about that.
I haven't stopped thinking about that.
That's so great.
Yeah. So shout out to Joe, shout out to Chief State. That was a really fun interview to do. I wanted to ask you as well, because so I haven't had a chance to. We haven't talked in person in like a month.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
I've been gone.
And so I mean, obviously, like nobody needs to hear me like rehash my opinion, because me and Joe talked about this on the last episode. But what have you thought about all the Blink stuff? Tom being back at Coachella. Like, have you been seeing the videos?
Yeah, I did see some of the videos. I mean, I never really like watching live performances like on YouTube or whatever, just because like, I mean, you get to see it, which is cool, but you're not there for it.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a different experience when you're watching something online versus actually being there. But from what I did see, I saw a couple of songs that they did, and it was cool to see. And like, yeah, I mean, your take on Tom's voice changing and stuff like that, the evolution of that. I mean, you've also got a band, like these guys were around 20 years ago. Like, you're gonna change in 20 years for sure. But no, it was cool to see, and obviously being a Frank Ocean fan and the fallout that happened from that.
Yeah.
It was awesome to see. Big W for Blink fans for them to come back to that, but also because it was like Skrillex and other people who actually ended up closing out the show, that second one. I saw a couple of the Skrillex performance there, and I listened to dubstep a little bit at the time when it was like at its peak and popular. But it was cool to see like the whole place went fucking wild when he played Bangarang. And I was like, that's a good way to close out a concert, especially just from how fucking abysmal Frank's performance was. Holy shit,
I'm
sucked.
So glad you brought that up, because I've been meaning to ask you about this. So I want to hear your version of like the rundown of events. I mean, there's not really like multiple versions, but I want to hear what the rundown of events were from what you know, because from what I saw, like I'm not a huge Frank Ocean guy like you are. You were like in the past. Obviously, he doesn't really do a ton of music in present day, but from what I see and from what I've understood, he had a set that he was playing at Coachella. He came out like without a microphone, essentially like lip synced to all of his songs. Didn't actually like perform anything aside from just like kind of lip singing and dancing on stage. And then the set got cut early, and he walked off stage. Can you confirm or deny this?
So some of it, yeah. Did he lip sync stuff? Yes, he did perform live.
Okay,
a good chunk of songs too. But what had happened was that obviously a lot of the performances get live streaming on Coachella's, YouTube page.
Yeah.
Frank said no live stream.
Yeah.
So basically the whole thing was just a full diva move.
Yeah.
Very obvious that he just didn't want to be there for whatever reason. But the reason, I was watching the live stream through somebody's Instagram live, and
you were watching a live stream of the live stream.
Yes. It was just a live stream of the performance through Instagram Live.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because I was on the Frank Ocean subreddit, and people were like, this person's streaming it. This person has a good quality stream. People were like ranking the people that had different, like, some of the fans that he has, man, is crazy. Like the ranking all the live streams for Coachella, who's got the best angle and everything. But he started an hour and a half late.
Yeah.
Because the original set was supposed to be like a skating rink, figure skaters that had practiced, choreographed. And so last minute, as well as canceling the live stream, he said no more ice rink. So he's just like, I don't want to do it.
Just shut that part down.
Yeah. So then you got a lot of frustration from the people who are doing the dances and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, so that's why he was late, because the set builders were taking apart the ice rink. It had to melt the ice, move it all out.
Yeah.
So that was a big bummer, why that was late as well. No new music, no coming out with a new album. He's like, there's no new album coming out. Not to say that there's new songs or that there's not one, but right now there's not. And it's just like, it was just a disappointing set list and disappointing, tracks. Like some of what he performed was cool. Like there was some new kind of takes on some songs that he had that were cool. But at the end of the day, it was just a cluster. Like he blamed he had a sprained ankle or something, or like a broken, I don't know, something broken.
So not a lot of accountability.
Not a lot of accountability, no apologies, anything like that. And it was tough to see. And like people got really, really mad. And like even I'm just like, man, like clearly this dude doesn't give a shit about fans, about music anymore. So it's difficult to see that. And then I'm finding myself like skipping Frank tracks now.
It's
just like,
that was going to be my
leaves a sour taste in your mouth. And you're just like, man,
that was going to be my next question. Was like, I don't know how much this does or doesn't affect how you listen to or look at Frank Ocean, but would you in present day say you're a Frank Ocean fan?
Still, yeah, for older stuff, but I mean, right, yeah, I am, but like I'm not as big. Like I'm not, if there's anything new that's coming out, I don't think I would be as into it as I would be prior to Coachella happening.
And that's I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds like that's less because of the quality or the music itself, and more because of the person who Frank Ocean has turned into.
Yeah, exactly. And like the diva shit that he's like pulled for some other things, it's just like, man, there's only so much hype you can have about, being a good artist and all these different things. But it's tough when you compare him to Tyler, the Creator.
Yeah.
Because they were in like, I don't know if it was a rap group, but like Odd Future was a big thing in like, 2012. And some of the songs that they put out, Frank was part of Odd Future. So when you look at kind of the differences between where Tyler, the Creator's gone versus Frank Ocean, like Tyler's just leagues above caring about fans, performing, the quality of his music has just like been so good. And then, Frank's put out one album, two albums, in the last little bit, and then just done nothing since that. It's sad to see. So anyway, it was a big W for Coachella fans for having Blink, big W for Blink fans for having them kind of come out again and close it off. So it was cool.
I think to sum that all up, to me, it comes down to the simplest thing in the world is just being a decent human being. Yeah. Which is not at all a hard thing to do. Like, it's the bare minimum you could possibly do. Just do that. And you know what? Like, because even right there, like, there's nothing wrong with the quality of music that Frank Ocean is putting out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's hard to support someone who is actively kind of being a piece of shit.
Being a dick,
It's very hard to back something like that consistently.
Exactly.
Or to defend it, for that matter.
Exactly. It's very easy to not be a dick.
Mm-hmm. It's the bare minimum.
Yeah, exactly.
Bare minimum.
So anyway, that's that.
I listened to recently, like, speaking of like bands coming back and stuff like that. I don't even remember how I came across this, but I read about this interview and then I went and listened to it because it was in this podcast called Tuna on Toast with Stryker. And this guy, his name's Ted Stryker. He's formerly of the radio station K-Rock. And I guess he has this podcast now called Tuna on Toast. Mm-hmm. And he had this interview with Derek Weebly of Sum 41.
Yep.
Talking about it was a really good interview because he was talking about like the origin story of Sum 41, where they came from, how they became up big and stuff like that. And the thing, like the headline that I read, I don't remember where I saw this, but the headline was like the album Does This Look Infected? This is a quote from Derek. He's saying, Does This Look Infected was the most what was the word he used? Torturous album for him to have to record or for him to have to write. That's what it was. And I strongly recommend everyone go and listen to this. You can find it wherever you listen to your podcast. I found it really quickly. Like I said, it's called Tuna on Toast with Stryker. And it was a super interesting listen for anybody that's a fan of Sum 41 or was just a fan in the scene from back in that time. Hearing it, because Does This Look Infected? I don't know if how many like memories you have of that album or how strong of a memory you have of that album, but that was one of my more repeated albums when I was growing up. I remember that came out, I think, when I was in like grade 5 or it might have been grade 4. And I remember just bumping the hell. That was like the first like somewhat heavy album that I ever kind of listened to. And to hear, I mean, I don't want to give too much of it away, but to hear the background story of some stuff like in the industry and how that was such, in his words, like a torturous album for him to have to record was a wild story to listen to. So yeah, I just wanted to fit that in. If anybody has the opportunity to go and listen to this, like I said, the podcast is called Tuna on Toast with Stryker. It's one of the latest ones, so strongly recommend. It's really good quality too.
I'll listen to it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Should we wrap things up before we get into the bulk here with what we've been listening to?
Updates, what we've been listening to.
Yeah, like I said, it's been like a month or so since I've gotten to ask you that question. So, do you have anything off the top of your head what you've been listening to?
I mean, hold on, get out of here. New pop-ups and stuff. I don't know, nothing new in terms of like pop punk. That I've been dabbling in. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember like when these new kind of things came into my mind, but I've been playing a lot more guitar lately. So
cool.
Just
how are your fingers?
Good. Getting the calluses, getting a little hard, which is good. So I've been listening to a lot of like more guitar type music, I guess. The Avett Brothers have been playing a couple songs. Love them. They're good.
We love the Avett Brothers.
And then I saw this girl cover like a song. She's like, this is a good song. I like the cover. It was like a really good song. And I'd never heard of this guy before. His name's Nick Drake.
Okay.
And
2 first names.
Yeah, I know, right? But this is an album from like the 70s, like this guy from the 70s. So I'd never heard of this album before. It's called Pink Moon. 72 this came out. The song's called Place to Be, and it's like a really, really good song. It's cool artwork and stuff. So that one I eventually want to try to play and cover. But yeah, it's got a lot of listens, which is super popular, which I feel like, I don't know why I haven't heard of that before. But anyway, so that was cool. Yeah, not really a lot of new content that I've been kind of listening in terms of music. But I just me and Ben started running a little bit, so I'm finding like good like running like high BPM tunes to run to. So that's pretty much it. But
very cool.
Unfortunately, not a lot of new like content or music that has just kind of jumped out at me like, ooh, this one's good.
Yeah, catching your attention.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
But last podcast you did talk about the guy that I told you to listen to,
and I've been jamming his stuff. Oh my god, medium build. I'm so glad your only description of that was that there's a lot of passion in his vocals, because holy shit, what a good. I'm so glad that was so vague, but as soon as you listen to one of his songs, you're like, oh, there it is. Love that. No, it's huge. I really enjoyed that. And then you also finished the podcast Hunting Warhead. Oh my god. And it's gotten me into this. I'm on this true crime kick for looking for podcasts specifically. And I found a few of them. I talked about one last episode that was called like Evil by Design or something like that. I found a couple. There's one called The Orgasm Cult that I listened to, where there's also actually a documentary about it on Netflix called Orgasm Inc., which is kind of about this like sex cult that was going on. Unreal listen if you just want to listen to the podcast. Unreal documentary, because I did watch both. And that Hunting Warhead one, which was just like blew my mind with every passing episode. It was incredible. Incredible in like in the worst way. In terms of
just scary.
Just wild stuff. In terms of songs, I sent this to you. I don't remember if I did or not. I sent it to a bunch of people because I can't stop listening to it. It's very much in the vein or like a similar vibe to Death Cab, but it's this band called Pine Grove.
Oh, I fucking love Pine Grove.
The album specifically is called 1111.
Yeah.
The whole album is unbelievable.
Yep.
This whole album. The first song that caught my attention, it came up on my Discovery Weekly. The song was called Alaska.
Okay. Yeah.
Such a good song.
Yeah.
I was just like, I think I sent that song to a couple people, and then my friend Gabby, I've brought her up on the podcast a handful of times here. She was like, she texted me later and was like, yeah, this other song called Respirate on the album, on that same album, is also really good. And I was like, oh yeah, you idiot. Why wouldn't you have listened to the rest of the album? So I listened to the rest of the album. Super good. But that song, Respirate, hopefully I'm saying that right. I'm a huge idiot if I didn't. But that's, first of all, really good song, just in general. I think that's the first song that I've heard since the pandemic that has a line openly talking about COVID.
Oh.
It like the line is like, when Corona hit, I was already feeling pretty out of it. And I hum that line daily since I heard it. Like I don't know why. It's such a weird thought for me to hear a present day band talk about the
largest event that happened in the world, basically,
that we just finished living through, kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like I've seen there have been a few shows that are set in present day where COVID kind of gets brought up, the pandemic, like it's sort of.
I hear references lockdown.
Yeah, exactly, and every time it gets brought up, like in shows and movies and stuff, I'm like, I don't really like. We just lived through this. I don't want to. But there's something about this line in this song that I'm like, it's just like hits different.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I think it's Respirate.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
I'm an idiot. You are.
The album that has come out a little bit before that, Cardinal.
Yeah.
Old Friends is probably one of my favorite songs from them, and it's off that album, Cardinal.
Okay. Is that more modern than this?
No, it's Cardinal came out in 2016.
Oh, okay.
I've got the vinyl of 1111, and it's cool. It's like
really
a different color and stuff. Yeah, I'll show it to you after.
Is the vinyl is a different color than what I'm looking at here? The green.
Yeah, well, the album cover looks like that. The colored, it's a different colored vinyl.
I see.
I think
very cool.
It's either green. I think it's actually red. It's like a very bright red.
Okay.
Vinyl. It's just
very
sweet.
cool. Okay, I'm gonna listen to that Cardinal album on my drive home.
Yeah, no, that is such a good band. I love Pine Grove.
Yeah, very cool. Love that.
And sorry, you mentioned Death Cab. Yeah. They're playing at the Commodore in a couple of months.
Death Cab is?
Yeah. And tickets are $183 fucking dollars.
Yeah, right.
Fuck Ticketmaster, dude.
183?
I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to do. I miss going to concerts. I want to go see bands. Like, there's a bunch of good lineups. Like, M83 is playing at the Commodore.
Yeah.
I want to go see a couple other bands like Death Cab, and I think there was another. Like, do you know who Harry Mack is?
No.
He's like a rapper that does like off the top freestyle. That's just like incredible. So I want to go see him. He's playing at the Commodore, right? Tickets can't be that expensive. No, they're like minimum $100.
I think
it's so fucking dumb.
I went and saw Death Cab, I want to say in like 2009 or 2008 it might have been at the Pacific Coliseum. I want to say those tickets at the Coliseum, which is bigger than the Commodore. I want to say those tickets were like $80 to $90.
Yeah, which I would be more than happy.
Yeah, a Commodore show, much like the Vogue, like we've talked about, should be $60. That's how much those tickets should be.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Ticketmaster.
Yeah,
Fuck you, Ticketmaster.
So fucking tired of it, man. I want to go see concerts, but I just can't.
Can't justify it.
Can't shell out that money anymore.
Nope.
Sucks.
What do you think? Should we get into the bulk here?
Absolutely.
All right. Take the reins there, brother.
Speaking of going back to your roots, we're going to take a deep dive on Fall Out Boy.
Yes.
Yeah. So, history, impact, and I mean, I would say one of the most influential bands of 2000s specifically, just because of what they have. Also, I've got show notes for this. I don't know if there is anything like you want to jump in with, your own take for whatever.
Yeah, I'll hop in here and there, but go for it.
Sweet. So from starting out in the Chicago punk scene to, of course, their hits that have just rocked the 2000s. Sugar We're Going Down. Thanks for the memories. They've had a very profound impact on music, the industry as a whole. So whether we're all diehard fans or, just curious about the band, I think we can go a deep dive into who these guys are and why they become so popular. So, I mean, for me personally, like I hadn't listened to a lot of Fall Out Boy since like Foley Adieu. that's kind of the last time I started listening to them, or that's kind of like the last, like, I was more into Fall Out Boy. Was after that album kind of tapered off with some of the other, with some of their other albums. And, that goes to a conversation that we had before about like the evolution of these bands and pop punk. And
I was just going to say, because that's sort of when they started to veer away from, like the pop punk or punk rock scene and started to go more towards like the radio friendly pop kind of stuff.
Yeah. And because like for anybody who's obviously heard Take This to Your Grave, the first, well, not really their first, but like a good, I mean, they had an EP before, studio album, Take This to Your Grave. Clear that they were just pop punk through and through, which I still think is a great, great album. But I mean, when a band is able to evolve into how big they are, like it's very clear that it's not just they're a pop punk band. They're just all a bunch of really talented musicians.
Yeah.
That's just plain and simple that they're able to do that. And that's why, a lot of them have like, you get accused of selling out to change your sound. And, to some extent that's probably true because you're getting a lot of money.
Yeah, totally.
To shell out a couple different albums. You're talking with execs and reps that say, the people want this. This is what's popular. So, but again, where those roots started, of course, are important, but where they've come to now, right? They've overcome so much controversy and where they've started to where they are now, and it still makes them a really good band. And even just to going back to their early years when they started to what we look at today, I think it's just a cool evolution that this band has had compared to maybe some of the other kind of popular bands that were sitting beside them, in terms of popularity in terms of some of these bands. I think more people would recognize Fall Out Boy than they would maybe like Yellow Card, right?
Yeah, and that's 100%. Yeah.
So
what is, you mentioned a controversy there. Is there a specific Fall Out Boy controversy?
Well, I think mainly more just like the hiatus and some of the other things that they did. And so I'll talk about that as well coming up. But so they were formed in 2001, Fall Out Boy.
I didn't know it was that early.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Formed in 2001. And so before Fall Out Boy, the bass guitar player, Pete Wentz, used to be in a metalcore band called Arma Angelus, along with one of the guys from Rise Against.
What?
Yeah, so they were in a band there. So they also played, a couple other, played in different bands. And then in the early years, Fall Out Boy was part of that punk scene in Chicago. They performed several times at different festivals and different kind of areas here where other, punk rockers started their music career. So they played in the same kind of venue where Rise Against played, Alkaline Trio, and a couple other bands. So early on, these reminiscent about these gigs. There's a book that like Pete Wentz has a quote from, and he says, "The Fireside Bowl holds the warmest memories of my entire life. It was a sanctuary and it served its purpose entirely." So cool. Just one place that they had, where they started playing and being that is kind of what happened there. So Patrick Stump came to Fall Out Boy just within that time when they were trying out for different, things, musicians, that's the word I'm looking for. And he didn't know he could sing.
Whoa. Okay. I need to just pause for a second because that is a theme that I've heard so much with bands and singers specifically within this genre and all the branches of this genre, like whether it's punk, post-hardcore, whatever it is, where the singer sort of falls into the role of singing because there's nobody else that's kind of there to do it. So they're like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then they turn out to, either be a really talented singer or they learn as they go and they become a really talented singer. And that's really funny to me that Patrick Stump at the time didn't know he could sing, because I would say within the genre, I would hold him up as one of the better vocalists in general, not just like a good pop punk vocalist. Like he's a really good vocalist that just also is in a pop punk band. Yeah.
So he tried out for 2 open positions, or he actually he auditions with the drums. So he started with drums because he did play drums in other bands before,
Wow.
but he auditioned for different like open positions for singer and guitarist. So then, so it was cool to see that. But he's like, yeah, they picked him for singing for that.
Wow.
So yeah, when they formed, this is before being called Fall Out Boy, they didn't know what to call themselves. Mm-hmm. So they just had no idea what to call themselves, right? So their second show played in 2001 after they formed, obviously. They shouted out to a crowd and asked, what should our band name be?
What?
Yeah. So somebody shouted to the crowd, shouted back, Fall Out Boy, the sidekick of, actually, this is actually a reference to The Simpsons.
Okay.
That's where Fall Out Boy comes from.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So in The Simpsons, in the show, one of the characters, or I guess this is like, is a sidekick of a superhero called Radioactive Man.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So his sidekick is Radioactive Man and Fall Out Boy.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. I haven't watched The Simpsons since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
So it would be, I wonder how quickly I would have picked up on that if I had watched it.
Well, I know. And that's the thing. Like, they claim that they didn't know that it was originally from that. And to be fair, that's such a small niche reference.
Yeah.
That like nobody's going to be able to pick up on that.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty cool that's how it's done. But I mean, Fall Out Boy in The Simpsons, obviously referencing to radioactive, like fallout is one word.
Yeah.
But Fall Out Boy, they made three words into that. So I mean,
I guess there probably hasn't been any lawsuit, has there?
No.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, maybe that's why they made it Fall Out Boy,
Yeah.
maybe just to avoid that. I don't know. But cool to see. So after that, they made a debut mini LP even before Take This to Your Grave. I'm wondering if you know the name of that EP. Very early on in September 2007, it's called Fall Out Boy's Evening Out with Your Girlfriend.
Oh, so they had the weird long names right from the start.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too, is that their producers or their like record companies hated the long names.
Why?
I don't know. They just were not a big fan of them, and just because I guess they were so jarring and not naming the type of song like actually what it's called, right? But I think those are one of the more iconic. Those are the ones
you remember.
Yeah, right. A little less 16 Candles, a little more Touch Me, right?
Yeah, what's that?
Our lawyers made us change the name of this song because
so we won't get sued or something. The what's that other one? The Pros and Cons of Breathing or something like that.
Something like that.
What are these names, man?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's cool. So where's my notes here? So, so that first EP that they had recorded on a very low budget, rush schedule, everything like that. So, I mean, they're trying to put something out there as quickly as they can. So it eventually sold over 127,000 copies. This was by 2008, though. Finally, they sold all of this. But, no, it's cool to see. So, and one of the cool things is that when they started, when they were touring, they made sure that all of the everybody in the band got all the splits. They split the money equally.
Very cool.
Which is important to do, especially if you are a lead front man or whatever.
Yeah.
Some people might recognize you more,
that's that lead singer syndrome that the people fall victim to too often.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing to experience that, and I don't know. It's probably pretty easy to fall victim to.
Totally it is. All of a sudden, like, you got people carrying your gear for you. Plus, like, in general, you don't have as much gear.
Yeah.
You're the guy or the person that's getting recognized the quickest. You're usually in the front of the photo shoots kind of thing. Very easy to fall into.
It's all just that big dopamine kick that you're getting each time, and you're going to do whatever you can to keep getting that. So that's probably why.
But it comes back to, like we talked about with Frank Ocean, the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Just be a good person.
Exactly. You'd think. So another fact kind of going through is that Patrick Stump has synesthesia.
What is that?
Do you know what that is?
I don't.
Okay. You just asked a question. Makes sense. So synesthesia.
Okay. Go on.
is a it's basically a condition that it's not like a sickness or anything, but it's basically you almost mix up your senses. So like if I were to say the word Tuesday, what color do you think of when I talk about the word Tuesday?
Blue.
Yeah. So like simple things like that. Like or when you hear a name, you just get like a bitter taste, like a, taste like whatever. So like some of those things are obviously there's different categories of what it could fall into, but I feel like I kind of have a little bit of that, especially just like listening to sounds. Like for me, like songs have specific colors.
Very interesting.
So that's just kind of how I see it as well. Like, and a lot of these things, there's a lot of studies that have been, actually not a lot of studies that have been done on synesthesia, but one that I was reading before this was like some of these, of what they refer to, like what they think it means. It changes over time. So like something could be blue before, now it's, this. But obviously some have extreme cases of it, some have less, but he's one of them that has synesthesia. But it's actually a common thing amongst singers, songwriters, artists to have a little bit of synesthesia. So Billy Joel, Pharrell Williams, Jeffrey Rush, even Vincent van Gogh had a little bit of synesthesia there.
Interesting. This is the first I've ever heard of that.
Yeah, it's like where you can like, you just see, it's just basically senses getting mixed up. Like seeing colors, like when you hear or talk about certain things, or just seeing like shapes. Like sometimes like the music to me like gives out certain shapes or whatever.
Yeah.
It's simple things, but it's pretty interesting, which is like and there's another, not really syndrome, but something that's the complete opposite of that, which is called aphantasia.
Okay.
Have you heard of that?
No.
So it's the complete opposite, is that where you just don't have a mental picture in your head. Like if I told you to close your eyes, think of an apple, like where is that apple? Is it on a table? What color is it?
Yeah.
All these different things. Like some people can't form that mental picture in their head, which is pretty interesting.
Wow.
Because
that reminds me of that, how like there's some people that don't have that like inner monologue in their head. There's some people that just don't have that voice.
I'll believe it.
Yeah, right. It's such a crazy thing to even fathom, like as long as you have it.
Yeah.
But apparently there's some people that just don't.
I don't believe it. What do you do when you're sitting? What do you do when you're sitting in a room and there's nothing going on? What are you thinking about? You can't be thinking about nothing.
Who's to say?
I don't know. There's some dumb people out there, maybe. They just don't think about anything, but...
You heard it here first. Whatever this thing is called is directly related to how smart or stupid you are. You heard it here first from Colton.
Oh, man. Yeah. I'm just rifing off some some cool facts, that have happened throughout the years. So after Hurricane Katrina in 2005, everybody's doing what they can to get help and what they're trying to do. So, blood drives, they were trying to push awareness to getting blood for, to help out. So in a publicity stunt to raise awareness, the band gave away posters signed with ink that had the blood of all 4 members in.
What the hell?
So there were 45 prints in total that were all made with individually with images based on their album Infinity on High. So Pete Wentz said that they did this as a tribute to Kiss, who actually did this in 1997, where they partnered with Marvel to produce a comic book printed in the band's blood as some of the...
Ew.
Yeah, right? And I mean, bodily fluids, that's actually, that's not a brand new thing that they've done, which we'll talk about later on. The song Bang the Doldrums on Infinity on High was almost on the Shrek soundtrack.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So they wrote that song for the Shrek soundtrack, but it was ultimately rejected.
So they just used it as a regular song?
Yeah, I don't know how much changes they made from when they pitched it to them versus what it ended up to be on the album.
Yeah.
But they said that they wrote, it for 2004, 2005 for Shrek. They saw the rendering for it being in there. They looked at it. Then they went back to the studio and said, they asked us for that, but they don't know that's what they want. We should give them what we think they want. And then they're like, you can imagine how well that went. So it didn't go over too well. So they didn't like the song, but they liked it enough to put it on Infinity on High. So
do you have down there in your notes who that quote is from?
Pete Wentz.
I knew it was going to be Pete Wentz. I've heard, so I don't have any way of confirming this.
Yeah.
Just from what I've heard, is that Pete Wentz is kind of the brains behind Fall Out Boy. No disrespect to anybody else in the band, but in terms of the direction that they've gone in, apparently Pete Wentz is somewhat of a marketing genius.
Yeah.
And he, again, like, I don't have any way of confirming this, but apparently he was the one that pushed them in the direction of veering away from the punk rock, pop punk stuff to get into the pop scene. And then in present day has been the guy that has said, all right, guys, like, let's go back to our roots here and put out a pop punk album.
Right. Oh, interesting. That's cool.
That doesn't really shock me that that's a Pete Wentz.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you need smart people in this. Like, at the end of the day, the band is a business.
Yeah.
And if don't kind of have any much of that expertise, or you rely on other people to make those calls for you, and you're not sticking true to what you want to do, then that's cool. So yeah, that's interesting with the Shrek thing. But so second album from Under the Cork Tree comes out, and man,
that's the big one.
That's the big one.
Yep.
I think that's the biggest one that most people kind of resonate with, come out with.
I'm gonna open up the track list here.
Everybody's got so many memories, probably in like middle, elementary school, high school, early high school, just tied to some sort of Fall Out Boy song from specifically that album, or even the whole ass album itself.
Yeah.
Like when I had a band when I was in grade 7, I was in a band with a couple youngins, and we were covering Fall Out Boy all the time, and just like Sugar We're Going Down.
That song to this day still slaps.
It's still good. Absolutely holds up.
I have memories of being in School of Rock in grade 11, and like, I mean, all the instruments are always set up. The drum set is always on the stage. You just have to go get guitars real quick. But obviously, there's only a handful of people in the class that were drummers. Anybody that wasn't a drummer, myself included, would always start the class by going on and playing Dance Dance, the intro drums to Dance Dance. And then it progressed to somebody grabbing the bass and doing the bass line real quick.
It's so
and then
easy to cover.
All of a sudden, these people that you're not in a band with, you're all jamming Dance Dance kind of thing. And that was in, so what year did this album come out? This was in 2005. When I was in School of Rock for the first year, that was like 2011, and we were still like, that was the go-to song that we would always start the class with.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've got a dark alley and a bad idea that says you should shut your mouth. Like, some of these things are so great. I love this one. Champagne for my real champagne for my real friends, real pain for my sham friends. I love that title track. It's just so good. But yeah, man, just so many memories with this album, like physical CD copies of it, going to see them live, all these different things.
Some cool music videos too that went along with these songs.
Yeah, I think that is just kind of the peak of like I feel like that they were just everywhere at that time. Yep. Just everybody was just talking about, playing that and everything there. So yeah, just cool to see how that just massive hit played everywhere. And I think, it's a really important album in their career into where we are now. This is kind of jumping a little bit times and stuff like that, but they wanted to have a world record of most continents played in. So they tried to play a show in Antarctica.
So they didn't succeed.
Did not succeed. I don't know what happened, but they just weren't able. They were not able to play on all 7 continents.
I was going to say, so that's got to be the one continent that doesn't get played on.
Yeah.
Damn.
But Patrick and Pete have ended up achieving a world record. This was in 2008, before releasing Folie à Deux.
Yeah.
Where it was the world record for most interviews in 10 hours.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you have the number there?
So the 2 musicians took over the radio at Premier Studios in Los Angeles for Halloween, beginning at 3 a.m. in the morning. They took part in interviews with radio DJs that were all about 8 to 20 minutes each and only took brief breaks to eat snacks or go to the bathroom. So after 10 hours, they had beat the previous record of 57 interviews conducted, but decided to keep from going as long as possible. They completed 74 interviews in 24 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah, earning a spot in the Guinness Book of World Records for that.
Oh my God. There's no way that could ever be done from the perspective of the person conducting the interview. There's no way anybody could conduct even close to that amount of interviews in a day. And the only reason I'm saying that is, I mean, I guess it could, as if it's a
they're the ones who are answering questions.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, if you're being interviewed, if for sure, not to take anything away from this weird world record, but you don't have to do any prep there. You're just, especially when you're the band, you're a popular band at the time, like you're just firing off the hip. If you're the one and like asking the questions, like you have to have prep done.
Yeah.
You have to be able to carry this energy I mean, the person being interviewed has to as well, but that's crazy shit, man. Interviews are tough in general. To do anything close to that many is
totally
holy shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, after that many interviews, you must get asked the same fucking questions.
Totally.
Just probably get so tired of answering.
Your brain has to be mush at the end of that.
Yeah. No kidding. Like, yeah, I can't even imagine. Like,
That's funny.
I freaking speak for a living, but even that. Oh my God. Yeah. Brutal. But anyway, so, we talked about the From Under the Cork Tree. Just so many good memories with that. We got Infinity on High. We talked a little bit about those albums, I think, previously in some of our other past episodes. So, I mean, not much needs to be said just about the cultural impact that they have and had with that. But their hiatus in 2009 was something that, where they decided to kind of shift to more solo projects. And Pete Wentz partnered with, Baby Rexha.
No.
That's just like another artist. I don't really listen to her much.
Okay.
They had an electronic group called Black Cards. And then some of the other band members, Andy and Joe, started a hard rock group called The Damn Things. And then Patrick tried to do some of his own solo stuff. So
I remember the Patrick Stump solo era.
I feel like that was something we missed in some of our other podcasts we were talking about. Did we talk about? We were talking about like
we talked about side projects. We never talked about like solo things or whatever. I mean, I guess they in a way can go hand in hand, but that could be an interesting deep dive in and of itself. Like people that have gone and tried to do their own thing.
I never actually listened to any of the solo projects that Patrick did. Did you?
Little bits. Like I remember his solo era, but this was around the time where, I mean, yes, they're doing their solo thing. Yes, they're on hiatus, but even like leading up to that, there was a little bit of a change in Fall Out Boy, and the change led to what they ended up becoming, which was more of, like I said before, like radio friendly, more pop focused kind of thing, which in present day, I'm way more open to that kind of a change. Back then, like if you weren't playing heavy guitars that had the crunch sound effect and had like a drum beat, get out of my face. Like I don't want anything to do with you. At that time of my life.
Totally. And that's fair. And I think that is why when he tried to go solo, like what he was trying to put forward just wasn't meshing with what that current, music kind of tastes were blending to. So do you know what actually brought back the band together?
No, I don't.
It was Patrick Stump writing a blog post.
Really?
Yep. Self-titled blog post, 2012. Blog post titled, "We Liked You Better Fat, Confessions of a Pariah." And so in it, he describes how he felt like a failure because his solo career had not taken off like he had hoped. And one of the heartbreaking things that he put in there of the confessions is that some fans were not quiet about their dislike of his solo work, made, brutal remarks, said, "We liked you better when you were fat."
Yeah.
And he had put, of course, so much effort into losing, I think it was like 60 pounds that he lost and getting in better shape, which is such a huge accomplishment. but like, yeah, just brutal comments to do that. So once Pete read the post, he reached out to Patrick saying, "I know what you need. You need your band." And then they reunited Fall Out Boy and released their next album, Save Rock and Roll, in 2013 from that.
And that is when I was completely checked out of Fall Out Boy.
Yeah.
This was the era where I it's not like I was actively being like, man, fuck Fall Out Boy, that kind of thing. But I remember hearing that their song, like Save Rock or whatever the first single was. I forget what the title was off the top of my head, but I remember thinking like, this is, it was the same kind of vibe as like when Tom DeLonge in Angels and Airwaves was like, we're going to make the best rock album that's ever graced the earth. And everyone's like, will you though? Like, let's chill out a little bit here. And then just in general, back to like Fall Out Boy, like I just generally didn't really like the direction they were going in. So it's not like I was actively being like, fuck Fall Out Boy. I kind of like nothinged them.
Yeah,
like,
I was just like...
they didn't take up any real estate in my brain at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that was a long hiatus, 2008 to 2013.
Yeah.
Quite a while. So, I mean, it's cool to see kind of their back. But, I mean, yeah, you look at some of the past, to where they are now. Huge difference. But, I mean, so much for Stardust, their newest album. I think some of it's really good. Like Love from the Other Side, the single that they put out in the first track on the album, I think is pretty good. So I enjoyed listening to that. But I mean, kind of just wrapping up a little bit here, we know since that early 2000s, right? We know that they've helped shape sound of emo, pop punk rock influences and we know that they've got countless influences on different bands and artists throughout that. So they got catchy hooks. They got relatable lyrics. They got that punk energy, that pop that's in there. But, that subculture in 2000s, even going back, because that's what I, remember the most and refer to the most. Yeah. Was just like the classic like fashion of like that early to mid 2000s, like skinny jeans, eyeliner, stripes, checkerboard, everything. Yeah. Huge influence to that. So, I mean, and all these graphic tees. I have so much graphic tees. Yeah. Man.
Blue Notes, baby.
Oh, Blue Notes. All baby. The time. I'd always buy my jeans from PacSun from the US. Okay. Is PacSun still a thing?
Great question.
I don't know. Anyway. But it's cool. I think it's their willingness to experiment and evolve is why they've been so relevant for as long as they have. So, I mean, to kind of cap it off, we know that their legacy is a testament to the power of music to connect people and inspire them to be themselves.
Do you have, just while we're wrapping up here, do you have like a final thought in terms of, like, if I just say to you Fall Out Boy, like what is the overarching image, or like what's the thing that stands out to you, whether it's a song, whether it's like a picture, whether it's a one of their performances, or like what is it about Fall Out Boy that stands out to you like the most, one thing?
I think it was the feeling off From Under the Cork Tree of just like listening to the tunes and just getting like so amped up and excited, and just like the music was so cool and the lyrics were fun, and just like it's the experience of listening to that album, like no matter where I was, what I was doing. I pull out the old iPod Nano, right? Scroll over to Fall Out Boy, to click on it, and then pop open the album. I think it was cool, and then and the physical copies of the CDs, and like opening up a CD and like seeing what's inside the little mini poster you get inside there, right? All those things are cool, but one thing to kind of end off of is one of their newest things that they've done. Is that they've made their newest album, So Much for Stardust, available on vinyl with 50 copies infused with the band's tears.
What?
Yeah.
How do you... What?
Yeah. So, of course, they sold out instantly. Do you know what they call it?
No, what?
Crynal.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
But yeah, every Crynal release is filled with actual tears from the artist. Yeah. So they gather the tears, dilute them into some sort of optimized solution, then seal them in each record using some proprietary crinal seal technology. Oh man, it's good. I mean, like the website blurb says music is more than just sound waves. It's passion, struggle, and emotion. That's why we've developed this new kind of record, one that contains the artist's actual tears. When you listen to a crinal release, you're not just listening to what the artist played, you're feeling what they felt.
What the hell?
Yeah.
That's so stupid.
Oh man, it's funny. But yeah, it's interesting. I'll fucking guarantee that was Pete Wentz's idea.
All right, well that'll do it for another episode of the Pop Punk Power Hour, the first one in a few live in person.
Yeah,
so it feels good to be back in the studio. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I mean we're back on a regular schedule here of being back in person. So looking forward to it.
Hell yeah, bro.
And again, as per usual, hit us up on the socials, follow us on TikTok. You've been doing an unreal job of posting a bunch of the reels from the Joe episode up on the Instagrams and stuff like that. So if you want to get caught up on any of that, hit us up. I think we have one of those Linktree account or Linktree things, so you can find everywhere you can find us through one click, whether that's Discord or any of the other social media. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled on that and join the conversation. We're easy listening as per usual.
Thanks for watching or listening, whatever you want to do. I don't want to tell you what to do.
Whatever you feel like. We'll see you next time, I guess.
Goodbye, everybody.